have you ever felt like your punchlines aren't landing, or the joke is kind of like wobbly and it's confusing? The audience doesn't quite get it. It doesn't pop. Well, it might not be the joke itself. It might be how you're delivering it. Hey comics, welcome back to Ask the Joke Doctor. I'm Jerry Corley, aka The Joke Doctor, standupcomedyclinic.com, with another episode of Ask the Joke Doctor. In this episode, we're going to show you one of the most common mistakes made by experienced joke writers and beginning joke writers, messing with the structure of the joke. And I'm going to show you how to fix it. Let's break down how to keep your jokes clear, punchy, and tight by sticking to solid comedic structure. So one of the most common mistakes that is made by comedians in writing a joke is they don't know what they're doing with the structure. They're not sure what technique they're using to get the payoff. See, jokes are like magic tricks, right? The magician knows he's got to go through certain steps to misdirect his audience so they don't see the surprise coming when he pulls the rabbit out of the hat. But instead of using rabbits, comedians use words. Compare and contrast is one of those structures that's tight, it's quick, it's punchy, but it can get flimsy if you try to do too much with it. Some comics try to be too clever or try to be funny and funny it up a little bit, and it just winds up confusing the audience as to what they're trying to do. Where's the surprise? They're not sure. If they're not sure, they're not going to laugh. I had a student try to take a simple joke, and then he tried to clever it up by making it funny, right? And instead, he wound up killing the structure of the joke, thus killing the joke itself. So there's a structure called the leading comparison. It's where you set something up to make the audience think you're taking them in a certain direction. You're going to say something. You're leading them somewhere. They're already guessing that you're going there. Instead, you flip it on them and surprise them. For example, if I said to you, my girlfriend and I had to break up. We're incompatible. See, I'm a Leo and she's married. That's one way to do the joke. So they're expecting me, since I set up Zodiac and I said Leo, they're expecting another Zodiac sign, maybe Libra, right? So, but in this case, I say something outside of Zodiac, but they've already created that expectation. We're going to Zodiac. I know this. So when I flip it and go a different direction, I know I have a high chance of getting a laugh there. So that's a leading, see, I'm leading them into that, right? So there's another way to do that joke to even enhance their desire to lean in to their own decision. Like if I say to them, like, my girlfriend and I had to break up, we're incompatible. See, I'm a Leo, and she was what do they call that? Lesbian. So there I lean in with the L with a little hesitation. Now, so they're going to think Leo, Libra, right? And then I hit them with lesbian. Would that be an incompatible straight relationship? Yes. So that's another way to do it. I can do that joke in a different way and say, you know, my wife and I have incompatible sleeping positions. She likes to sleep on her left side, and I like to sleep at my girlfriend's. So in that case, we'd go left side, right side. And now that leading comparison creates a definite expectation with the audience. So because I know what I'm doing with that joke. So my student has this crazy hair, right? It's great crazy hair, right? He's castable in a lot of stuff because of the crazy hair. So he does a joke, and the joke is a typical trope where he says it's kind of a mashup of two different celebrities, right? So he creates one celebrity. It's like, my dad's this and my mom is, and we're supposed to create another celebrity, female, obviously, for the mom, and instead he goes male. But he muddies it up by saying something different. He says, a lot of people wonder how I look like this. Well, my parents, when my father had me, he was hungover, and my mom is Zach Galifianakis. Where's the mistake? There's a couple of places. First of all, when he says, my dad had me, what does that even mean? Your dad had you? How does your dad have you? Did your dad pop you out of his pussy? How did that work? Like, is he in the hospital? Where is he? So we don't know the setting. We can't picture it. It's ambiguous. So it's going to confuse the audience. My dad had me. What does that even mean? Number two is when he says, my dad is hungover. My dad was hungover. What does hungover do? Does it create an expectation? Where do we go after that? What's that audience supposed to think after that? My dad was hungover. Now, I think what he was doing was he said hungover, and this is why he came up with Zach Galifianakis. This is what I think is happening, right? He said hungover. He's thinking The Hangover. In the movie The Hangover, Zach Galifianakis is in that. So he's going to do that Zach Galifianakis that the joke, and the audience is going to get what he's doing with that structure. No. That doesn't really do that. Besides, hungover is not hangover. Hangover is the name of the movie, right? See, it has a different version of the word. So we don't say hungover, hangover. We're not going to think of the movie Hangover. We kind of might do that when we say Zach Galifianakis, but that's too late for there to be a crisp pop in that laugh. So that joke is going to get a very soft landing. So he could have said, like, my dad was hungover while watching The Hangover, and my mom is Zach Galifianakis, and he would have gotten a better laugh that way, but it doesn't make any sense. The joke is to do the structure. My dad is this, my mom is, boom. And he could choose Zach Galifianakis to make that laugh because we're saying it makes me look like this. If he knew what the structure's intent was, as to create an expectation, he could have just said, people ask me how I got to look like this. Well, my parents. My dad is Jack Black and my mom is Zach Galifianakis. And so when he says my mom is, the audience starts to think of a female celebrity that might get him to look like this. Instead, he goes to a male celebrity. Zach Galifianakis is a great ending because it's got that K sound. Zach Galifianakis is just a funny name. Zach Galifianakis also creates an extra surprise because the sound of the name Zach Galifianakis, it's got a lot of K sounds in there. K sounds are usually funnier in the end. And on top of that, the image, if you see Zach Galifianakis in the image, it's going to pop that laugh because the better the imagery, the better the laugh. And he doesn't have to create the surprise with two celebrities, right? Which is a typical trope, right? So he could use a mirrored phrase to create an expectation. It's another technique, a side-by-side comparison. It's a version of the compare and contrast, but you're using a mirrored phrase. A mirrored phrase is when you say a phrase a certain way, and then you say that phrase again, the audience is automatically going to think that phrase is going to end the same way. That's just how the brain works. We as comedians should know this, and if we know this, we can manipulate or misdirect the audience and create better surprise. So he could have said something like, people always ask me how I got to look like this. Well, on the night of my conception, my dad was on the road and my mom was on Zach Galifianakis. So now we see that, okay, the joke is his mom was fucking Zach Galifianakis, and that's where the funny comes from. But my dad was on, my mom was on is the mirrored phrase that creates the extra expectation. See how that works? You got to know the structure before you make the joke pay off. So in the end, it's important to know what the structure is and what the structure's intended purpose is. Don't kill the structure because you could wind up killing the joke. Remember, when it comes to writing, the structure is your friend. Don't overcomplicate it by trying to be too clever or funny. The structure works. You're not trying to be funny. You're just setting up an expectation and then shattering the expectation. If you found this video helpful, be sure and smash that like button, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell to get the reminders that another comedy writing tip is on the way. And check out the link below for my full course on mastering comedy writing structure. Keep writing, keep performing, and I'll see you in the next video.